Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast with the Prince of Twitter, the Regent of RedState.com, Andrew Malcolm at AHMalcolm on Twitter. RedState.com, of course, he's there doing his thing all the time, and he's got great stuff up there. We're going to talk about that. First off, though, Andrew, I have to ask you, did you enjoy the UFC event at the White House?
You know, I was unavoidably detained.
I was unavoidably detained too. Not that I don't know how you feel about this. Honestly, my feeling on this is that presidents do different things at the White House. And I know a lot of people were saying that this was terrible and, it's all about Trump and his 80th birthday and stuff like that. And I was saying to myself, I tend to agree. I don't think it's a really dignified use of the White House. And I do sort of long for the days when those same grounds were used for topless transvestites.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I think the UFC event was a bit of an improvement over the topless transvestites of the Biden administration.
Definitely. Well, as I recall, Lyndon Johnson had kind of a midway circus thing. He had a Ferris wheel up one time.
Did he really? I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah. It's an event. It didn't cost anybody anything, except for, of course, like the Secret Service stuff, which comes out of the budget and whatever the White House lawn maintenance is going to cost us after this event is over. But this was funded by the UFC. This was a UFC event. It was funded privately. People had a good time. Not my cup of tea. Really isn't my cup of tea. But like I said, neither was the topless transvestite that Joe Biden did.
Yeah, it didn't bother me, but like you, I feel the same. I didn't care for it, but it's very Trumpian. It adds to his authenticity. It's the kind of big show, fix up the mall, fix up the statues, and have a big show at the White House that you have to expect these days. So, and then without any further ado, he gets on the Air Force One and flies to Europe for the G7 meeting.
Yeah, right after announcing that. We had reached an agreement with Iran on the memorandum of understanding that nobody has actually seen yet, and that they are saying, well, we need to wait on this for a few days. Color me skeptical.
Yeah, we should, and skeptical of whatever's in it, even if it's perfect. Skeptical that they would live up to any of it. Yeah.
Well, I'm totally skeptical about that. They're not going to live up to this. Now, Trump is saying today, this is, all the stuff that they are going to get is performance-based, which means that they're not getting anything up front. And because we haven't seen the actual text of this, Iran's saying something very different about what this says as compared to the White House, and nobody's really sure. Well, first off, if Iran's saying it, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
They lie. They lie like they breathe. So I'm not taking their word for anything here. But the fact that we're not seeing this text at the moment is, I think, at least somewhat concerning. And I think that, news organizations are raising this question. I think it's completely legitimate. Is if this is why not release the actual memorandum of understanding? And the answer apparently today is, well, it's not actually quite set in stone yet. They're still working on they're still wordsmithing this to some extent, which again is like, why would you wait? Why not wait until it's done before you start announcing that?
Because the G7 was coming and he wanted that out of the way, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I saw something just before we went on about Vance and Rubio signing it.
No, I think it was Trump. Trump signed it. Trump and Vance signed it. Because Trump reportedly wanted to Trump reportedly wanted to put his own name on it to show how serious he was about this. So apparently they've signed. I mean, that's the thing, is that would you sign
If
something?
it's that isn't done, yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean,
Exactly. Well,
Has
didn't he
Donald Trump
say?
ever bought a property and signed off on it without having the actual contract information in front of him? I don't think so. I mean, I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure that you
think
don't get to
so.
be a
Yeah,
multi-billionaire doing deals like
no,
that. It's
several
weird.
times,
Yeah.
multi-billionaire. Uh, yeah. Um, I don't. I, I. It's kind of. Uh, who was it? Eric Erickson did a thing where he counted up it with dozens of times where Trump announced there was an agreement.
Well,
So
he announced that it was imminent. This is the first time I think that he's actually said, "No, we've got the deal. It's done."
good.
And
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but
like
I
you, I'll wait to see the agreement.
look. I mean, maybe it's good. Maybe it's set up the way Donald Trump said it was set up, but
Oh yeah, but
they're
how's it
not acting like
enforceable?
it. They're
How's
not
it
acting like it.
enforceable?
Well, that's the other thing. How's that enforceable? Um, but
And
they're not.
giving money, then didn't giving them or releasing their money. Yeah,
Well, and again, the White House is saying, no, no, no. That's what Iran is saying. What we're saying is that they're not going to get a dime until they demonstrate compliance. It's a performance based
yeah. Well, I hope
transfer.
so. I hope so. But I'm
Well, I
kind
think
of kind of tired of it, and I don't think they're going to stop wanting a nuke.
well, and then on the other side of this is that Iran is saying Lebanon has to be part of this, right? And apparently the Trump administration has agreed to this.
Why?
Well,
Yeah,
Bibi Netanyahu just went on television, and I mean, just literally within the last half hour or so, went on television in Israel and said, "We're going to do we're going to do whatever it takes for us to secure our
yeah.
borders and to make
As
sure
they
that we're not
should.
attacked."
As they
Um,
should.
right, and that we are friends with the United States, but the United States does not dictate our policies to us. Um, so all of this is
And
sort of adding up to this is probably
yeah.
not going to work. I'd be very surprised if this actually worked.
Well, I hope so. And remember, Biden wasn't Biden trying to tell Netanyahu what to do? You can't do that.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Trump put himself in that position, frankly. Um, it's not helpful when you split with your allies and start talking about, how great your enemies are as negotiators. I mean, that's really not a great position to be in. And that's kind of where we landed over the last couple of
Yeah,
weeks, really, but
yeah.
especially in the
There's
last
been
couple of days.
some examples
Um,
of that.
yeah, it's worrisome. Um,
But
but I'm not sure that there's a but. It's just
moving
worrisome.
on.
Yeah. So let's talk about something else. Honestly, I don't know when we're going to, until we see the actual text of this MOU, you know, the one thing that the Iranians did say today, and I'll just add this in really quickly, which was true, which was they said that this is not a deal. This is a framework for discussing a deal. And, we're not making commitments to a deal until
Mm,
we get into the discussions of a deal. We're only agreeing to the framework. Part of the framework is both sides back off the Strait of Hormuz. But Iran is still claiming that they're going to charge tolls. And Trump is saying no tolls at all, period. End of story. The whole thing is just, again, I'm not even sure we're going to get to Friday on this.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
It ends up becoming too much showbiz.
on the flip side, and I will say this, I've also heard that you could look at this and say, well, this is Trump doing a good cop, bad cop with Netanyahu, saying Trump would be willing to make a deal, except that Netanyahu won't do it unless Hezbollah is disarmed, and using that as leverage with Iran. And maybe it's possible, um, but you don't really need to do that. I mean, there's no real need for good cop, bad cop. You can just be bad cop all the way and just say,
Yeah,
no, we're
let's
not
be
including
bad
Lebanon
cop
in
and
this.
finish the damn thing.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I hope it works, but I don't think it will.
I hope it does too. I hope it does too. All right, so let's take a look at some of the stuff that you're looking at. Um, Democrats are plotting revenge for when, not if, they take over Congress this fall. This is the I think this is your
Yeah, that was
audio
the
thing, right?
last week's audio thing last Thursday. Yeah. Uh, excuse, excuse me. They announced, and a bunch of them, I've forgotten, there was a congresswoman saying how they were taking names and going to seek charges. And of course, we can anticipate that if they take the House, which wouldn't be too hard, there will be more of this impeachment showbiz. And if they get the Senate, well, they have to do really, really well in the Senate. But if they get the Senate, then there'll be another vote there, and it's pretty much looking like a stalemate or a gridlock for the last 2 years of Trump's administration. And I haven't seen him doing a whole lot. Maybe behind the scenes, he's picking candidates, but I haven't seen him pay a whole lot of attention to the midterms yet.
Not yet, but I think he wants to. And I think this is part of the reason why
I
he's
hope
trying
he
to
does.
trying to drive the deal, right? Is
Yeah,
because he knows it
get it
will
out of the way.
lower, well, get it out of the way, but also it will mean lower oil prices. And I'm just going to double check that here. Oil is now down to $80 a barrel um,
Well, that's a good sign.
today. Yeah.
Now
So yeah, they're,
we'll see if the price goes down as fast as it went up.
this is pretty fast. I mean, down to $80
I
a
hope
barrel. I
so.
think a week ago it was trading over 100. So,
Yeah.
um, but so yeah, I mean that might be part of it as well. Is he's just might be trying to get out from underneath this thing so that they can get the
The big birthday
inflation under control.
celebration. Yeah.
Well, the birthday celebration was going to be done anyway. But this is the thing about the midterms is that if you can get inflation back under control, you can still make the affordability argument. And it went to 4.2% annualized. This was the most recent
Yeah.
inflation report, right? The problem with that level is that you're outstripping wages. I think for the second straight month. I think originally I wrote it was the first month, but I think this is the second straight month that inflation outstripped wages, and that's the problem. Is that you have people losing buying power in that sort of a
Right.
scenario. The upside of this is that it's not really structural. By which I mean we don't have a supply chain crisis that's being exacerbated by demand side stimulus like it was in 2021, which is what the whole set that whole inflationary wave off. That last
Yeah.
round of stimulus, and you had supply chain crises that were keeping products from coming to market. So prices just shot upward, which, even Larry Summers was trying to tell Joe Biden, you really don't want to do this. In this case, it's really just the oil crunch. So if you solve the oil crunch, the inflation should come right back down. And Trump's right about that. But it's not going to come right back down by the next month. It might take a couple of months, 2 or 3 months to work that out. And if you're looking
Yeah.
at that, you're talking about August or September before you really start seeing relief.
Yeah.
You can understand kind of understand why they're anxious to get a deal now.
Yeah. I agree.
Do you think that impeachment sells, though? I mean, honestly, the Democrats, you got Hakeem Jeffries. They kind of asked him about impeachment. He was like, well, we're keeping all of our options open. Didn't sound like he was really trying to land on that. But I mean, does anybody, is there any benefit to impeachment anymore? It's
No,
been,
no, absolutely not. Except to show the left that's been so dissatisfied they weren't fighting hard enough against Trump, to show the left that you're trying to do something, even though it's pointless and empty. But the media will love it, so there'll be a lot of coverage of that.
well, yeah, there'll be a lot of coverage of that, but it doesn't, I don't think it rings the bell, though. I don't think it really moves
No,
the
but
needle.
it's well, actually, this was the subject of the Sunday column was how um, the the bias is, well, it's built in, but how the bias is really not so much slanting stuff, although there's a lot of that. It's what you don't say. So Trump got 2 straight months of really good job numbers, and they say, yeah, okay, it was more than expected. However, look at the inflation, and they go right to that. Um, and so I was trying to help people understand how that behind the scenes media bias game is really played.
Well, and we should talk about this because Barry Weiss now, it looks like she's going to be taking over CNN. There's a reporting on this that David Ellison wants to structure all of the news organizations now at um, uh, Paramount, Paramount Skydance, under Barry Weiss's editorial control. And then there's a business side. So she's going to be handling editorial leadership for CNN as well as CBS News. And they're bringing in a separate business team that will also handle both at the same time. So they're combining this, which makes sense, right? If
Oh
you
yeah,
have bought, if you bought two different news organizations, you're going to want to combine them up. There's some synergies that you can get out of that, and there's also some cost savings. And I think that after the Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition, David Ellison's looking for some cost savings, but he wants to put Barry Weiss in charge of both. Now, what's interesting about this, Andrew, and you know this as well as I do, is that there was this whole genre of reporting about how Barry Weiss was on her way out, that she was failing miserably, that, she was in over her head from
mm.
places like Puck and Status, and especially the Daily Beast, which basically has a Barry Weiss is on her way out, clock on their website, not literally, figuratively speaking. Because I don't want to pass along fake news here.
No,
Um,
no,
but at the same time, they had to say, oh, and by the way, David Ellison's going to put her in charge of CNN too, which is a
that
little embarrassing, don't you think?
doesn't sound like on the way out. No, these guys with the bias and the mistakes, they just skip right by it. You remember the apologies for 2 years of not covering Hunter Biden's laptop?
Right.
No, no, just skip right by it, pretend it didn't happen. And unless somebody calls them out, they skate home free.
Do you think that uh, I'm trying to frame this? I mean, people are saying that Barry Weiss is MAGA, that Barry Weiss, 60 Minutes, you had Variety had this. I always go to Variety when it comes to dispassionate news analysis. Variety is really well known for this. Variety interviewed 6 former staffers at 60 Minutes to talk about how bad of a job Barry Weiss is doing, right? At
Yeah.
60 Minutes. And this is before it became known that David Ellison was going to also put her in charge of CNN. And I commented that this situation is precisely the reason why we invented the word disgruntled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking to people who've been fired? They're not going to have nice things to say about the organization. Maybe you should
I
think
know,
about that.
and yeah, and that's the bias where the other sympathetic media come in and give them a great platform to vent their spleen. And whether they go to call Barry Weiss 10 minutes before the post goes live online and say, well, we want your reaction, and she doesn't give it, and they say, well, at press time it wasn't, we didn't hear back. This is the game they play.
Yeah.
And what Barry Weiss tried to do at the New York Times was asked to do, was hired to do at the New York Times in 2015, was to provide more balance on the op-ed page of the New York Times. And so she did that. And then I forget when it was, 21 or 22, she published an op-ed by Senator Tom Cotton, former Army Ranger, uh, who said, well, maybe we should use troops, which of course passed on the riots after the black guy was killed in Minnesota, and to clear the streets, which other presidents have done. And this is just so terrible. The argument when somebody like Barry Weiss comes in, the argument is she's MAGA. Well, in the sense that she's providing more balanced, yeah, I guess it is, but she's not a MAGA acolyte. She's much more professional journalist. And if you read the Free Press, you can see it. There's all kinds of opinions and sides on there that that have made it so successful that David Ellison would want to buy it.
Right. Right. The the reason why people are looking to see reform at CBS is because it needs it very
Yeah,
badly, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and we've already talked about Scott Pelley. We talked about him in the last one. We should talk a little bit about Leslie Stahl, who was going on and on about how being fired from the job was worse than things like genocide.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and you had, I mean, Scott Pelley was similarly hyperbolic. He was claiming that being fired from that job was like was like having your spouse die.
Yeah.
And Mary
And
Catherine
that
Ham,
Barry Weiss was murdering 60 Minutes.
Barry Weiss is murdering 60 Minutes. Mary Catherine Ham clipped this, right? And Mary Catherine Ham's husband died in a bike accident. He was doing a like a bike rally for charity, and a driver clipped him and killed him. Um, and I went to the funeral. It was very that was a tough day, actually. It was, and I didn't even know her husband. I knew Mary Catherine, but I didn't know her husband. And it's a tough day because they had
Yeah.
two young kids. I think she had one young kid and one on the way. I forget exactly what the sequence was. Um, and he had worked at the Obama White House, which I didn't know until I got there, and there was a bunch of people from the Obama White House at the funeral. It was really nice. It was nice to be able to say hi to some people that I wouldn't maybe not have necessarily known, but I was really oddly shaken by the whole thing. But Mary
Yeah.
Catherine Ham gets up there and says, I've lost a job and I've lost a spouse, and I can tell you one's not like the other. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, these people are so wrapped up in their own delusions of virtue. I think it's the only way I can put this.
Oh, that's another nice Ed phrase.
Well, thanks. But I mean, that's kind of what this is you got Leslie Stahl, who's 84 years old, by the way, probably shouldn't be doing this anyway. Scott Pelley's what, in his late 70s. I don't know that they have anybody on that on the on-air staff for 60 Minutes who isn't who really shouldn't be, doing the Andy Rooney, 3-minute segment at the end.
Do you think? Do you think?
Have you
What's up with
ever
all the old people on 60 Minutes?
Have you ever wondered why the average age of our hosts is 103?
Oh, and Morley Safer died.
Yeah. Well, and Mike Wallace passed away, and but I mean, at one point they were at least bringing in middle-aged people to do some of this stuff, and maybe it's
And,
time to
and
bring in people
Anderson
who have.
Cooper, he's
Well,
not a
Anderson
kid.
Cooper's in there, yeah.
He's gone.
From CNN too, right? So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of synergy. Yeah, he's gone now, but people are looking at this as though 60 Minutes is somehow this paragon of journalistic virtue. This is the same group of people who got done trying to manipulate an interview to influence an election and got caught with their
Yeah.
hands in the cookie jar because they were stupid enough to put out two different versions of the same answer, one in a promo and the other in
Yeah.
the show itself. And people looked at both and said, wait a minute, somebody's been doing something to the editing here. They refused to release the transcript. Donald Trump ended up suing over it. They had to settle it because they wanted to get the lawsuit out of the way for the merger or acquisition. But I mean, this is not virtuous reporting. This is not virtuous journalism.
No,
And
but it doesn't stop them from signaling. What did you call it?
oh, now I forget. Um,
Well, it's not. It's
delusions of virtue, maybe is what I said.
yeah,
Something like that. I'm gonna
delusions
have to
of
go back.
virtue.
I
DV,
gotta
DV,
wait.
DOV. Delusions of virtue is that, and they will never give up on that argument, because if they did, they'd have to admit that they created the Dan Rather scandal, that they did edit the transcript, and that these stories are slanted subtly, but slanted. And remember, in the winter, Barry Weiss said, "No, we're not putting this piece on until there's more reporting." She didn't kill it, which is what they tried to sell it as. She
Yep.
wanted more balance, more from the Trump administration, which is right. But this is the thing I was getting at in the column, the kind of subtle thing where you overload with all the bad things, and then you just have a little bit. At the beginning, you say the administration denied it, and then later on, you go one or two paragraphs, and that's it, and a short quote, if anything, and so it's tipped, and without more substance from the victim side, the administration side, it's not balanced. But
Yep.
to them, that's balanced. So this is what Barry Weiss was hired to fix. And boy, I don't envy her. I know she's making a fortune probably, but boy, that's got to be hard on the stomach at times.
Well, and here's the last thing I'll bring up, because it was a funny little story that actually came from a guy on the left, Tommy Christopher, who I've known in the past, and he's a funny guy. He used to show up at CPACs as a left wing reporter slash observer, and so we kind of got to know each other a little bit. And he's fun. I haven't been in contact with him for a long time, but he's the guy that tweeted out his own heart attack, and I'm not kidding around. He was started having a heart attack and started tweeting about it while they were getting an ambulance. And we weren't sure Tommy was actually going to make it, and we were like, Tommy, what the hell? But I like
But
Tommy. Tommy's
it
fun.
boosts his followers, and now he's an
Yep.
influencer.
Well, I mean, yeah, and he is. He writes at Mediaite. He's got his own site. So he's still doing this stuff, and he's an independent journalist. And he noticed something at CNN, and I actually thought that this was a really good catch by Tommy. It really was. They have a fact checker who's been there for years. His name's Daniel Dale. I don't know if you've ever seen anything that Daniel Dale does on CNN.
No.
Well, you haven't seen it in the last 3 months because for some reason, once the sale went through, or at least once Warner Brothers Discovery accepted the Paramount offer, suddenly Daniel Dale stopped appearing on air to do Trump fact checks, right? I guess he was on a couple of times to do fact checks on other things, but all of his work was suddenly just on their digital space. And Tommy was looking at it. He was wondering what happened. So he's looking back at it and said the last time he was on was 2 days before, on to do a Trump fact check. It was 2 days before they accepted the offer from Paramount. So he hasn't been on since. He's done some stuff on digital, but not on the air.
Yeah.
And he wrote about it. He asked CNN for comment. I mean, he asked them to comment on it. They said they did issue a comment saying has nothing to do with anything. It just, just as this stuff comes up. But Tommy seemed pretty convinced that CNN was keeping Daniel Dale off the air to not screw up the approval process.
Yeah.
Which just went through last week. The approval process from the DOJ and the FCC was earlier, and the DOJ now has approved it, right? The antitrust division has approved it. And after Tommy raised this a couple times, Jake Tapper had Daniel Dale on to do a Trump fact check. And then Tapper pushes back against Tommy online, right? This whole thing is hilarious. To which Tommy sort of slams Tapper, saying, yeah, you brought him on after I raised the issue.
Yeah.
But this brings up the other question of fact checking. I was talking with Matthew Hoy, who just wrote a book called Fact Checking Frauds. And I had just done the interview with him Friday. And then Saturday morning, I see all this. I was like, man, I timed this interview great. So I put the interview up with all this stuff as, a framing device for it. But I suspect that this is the type of thing that Barry Weiss is going to sort of crack down on at CNN when she finally takes charge over there. I think she's going to start at the, executive and showrunner levels first, but there's a lot of stuff at CNN that could use some cleaning up too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, it's encouraging, but this is scraping the barnacles off of some huge battle cruiser.
Yeah, I
There's
agree.
so much to do. It's so embedded in the way they think, and sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it. I believe. I mean, they are doing it, but it's just become so natural. It's like asking a goldfish, "What's the water taste like?" Oh, when I left the New York Times, everyone that I talk with, all my colleagues, assumed I was going to work for a Democrat governor. I wasn't. And so they were all, if it came up, I pointed out that it was not a Democrat governor. And, it probably burned some bridges. But the assumption, the whole air there is liberal, DEI, and it just it's depressing. So, yeah, good on Barry, good on Ellison, good luck. We'll be cheering, but it's going to take an awful lot of work and time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of time, and frankly, it's going to take a lot of personnel changes. And I'm not necessarily
Absolutely.
sure that there are people coming up the chain who would be much
Better.
different.
Yeah.
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 That's
No, you're
going to make
right.
it
You're right.
difficult.
Originally, this is something I got into in the column, but originally, TV news came after radio news. Radio news, CBS radio news was stocked with some of the best reporters that they've ever had. William L. Shire, Eric Severide, Charles Collingwood, Walter Cronkite, Richard C. Hotlett, a whole bunch of these guys that were just wonderful reporters. They were real reporters. They had worked on newspapers or wire services, and they were not just news readers. So when TV news started, and Edward R. Murrow took them into television. So when TV news started, he had a crew of veteran news people who were good, and we all remember, I think, pretty profoundly, how good they were. But the farm teams on the local TV stations were not staffed that way. And so when the network started hiring from down there, they were not what you would call real reporters. They were pretty, female, black, ethnic, what you call what you want, that fit the Q factor, which is they have polls that they take of all these TV people to see how favorable they are viewed. And so it's not, gee, are they really good at reporting? No, it's not. It's, are they pretty? Can they talk? Is their voice annoying? And all of that. So that's who ended up manning largely television news later.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's too bad, but I wish her good luck.
Yeah. I think she's going to need it. I do.
Yeah,
I think she's going to
yeah,
need it.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
long-term project. Hopefully Ellison's got the patience and the cojones to see it through,
Well,
but
he
it's going to
certainly
be a
has the
while.
money.
Well,
Jeez,
yeah.
three
Well, he had
hundred
the money.
billion
He spent
dollars.
the money. That's the problem. He spent all the money. Now he's
Yeah,
going to have to make it up. But yeah, I'm sure
well,
his dad is
is in
checking
on
the.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm sure his dad's checking the interest rates on this. All right. Speaking of interests, that brings us to the jokes of the week, which we're always interested in. You have a joke. I've got a joke for you.
I have one. Yeah, this guy says he got a physical, and the doctor said, "Don't eat anything fatty." And the guy said, "Oh, you mean like burgers and fries?" And the doctor said, "No, fatty, don't eat anything."
Don't eat anything fatty. Yeah, well, there you go. That'll do it. All
What's
right.
yours?
All right. Two hunters are going moose hunting, and this time, they get skunked every season. This time they figured out a foolproof plan, right? They decide they're going to get a moose costume, a two-person moose costume,
Ah,
and of a female moose, and they're gonna get a female moose call. And so, a bull moose will come out and they'll be able to bag themselves a really nice bull moose. So they get themselves in, they're all zipped and locked into this outfit, one in front, one in back. And they do the call, and sure enough, this really impressive bull moose shows up and starts snorting and looking at him. And the guy in front says to the guy in back, "Okay, get out, go ahead and get your shot." And the guy's yanking on the costume. He's yanking on the costume as the bull moose is coming up. And the guy in back says, "I can't get out. I can't get out." He says, "What do you mean I can't get out?" He says, "I can't get out. It won't open up." He says, "What are we gonna do?" And the guy in front says, "Well, I don't know what you're gonna do. I'm gonna munch on some grass. I would prepare yourself."
oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
I like that one. Jokesoftheday.net. Um, yeah,
Uh,
prepare yourself.
okay, yeah.
I'm going to munch on some grass. So you can prepare yours. Oh, my goodness. All right. Andrew Malcolm, the prince of Twitter, the man who would be in front in any moose costume because he's smart.
Right, exactly. That's right.
He's,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
smart enough not to be in the back. We'll
yeah.
do this again next week, sir. We'll talk then.
Okay, fine. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everybody.